This video, we are going to look for the most aggressive chess openings as white, and that is the Evans Gambit. Evans Gambit is quite similar to Italian game, which we begin with e4, then black replies with e5, then we play knight to f3, directly attacking the central pawn, which is a very nice point, where black replies with knight to c6. Now this knight protects the pawn. What we can do is we can play bishop to b5, beginning with the Royal Lopez opening. Here we play bishop to c4, which is the Italian game. Now, after the Italian game, if black replies with bishop to c5, which is the Kyoko piano game, what we all begin? We all try something to develop the knight, or we play c3 and then we play d4, attacking the bishop and the central square. But in this video, if we are discussing for the Evans Gambit, then the main move is b4. Now, if we play b4, so we can see that it is attacking the bishop. Now, the experienced player would not take the pawn, and instead, black would try something like bishop to e7. Otherwise, let's look for taking the pawn by the bishop. Then, what we have to do is we enter the Evans Gambit accepted variation where we play c3, attacking the bishop. Now, bishop has three options, whether to go to e7, to a5, or to c5. Now we all look for the three options. Let's look for one of them. Bishop to e7. No need to worry, you can play d4, creating the control on the center, attacking the central pawn, also developing the bishop on both the diagonals, having two sharp diagonals. Now in this position we have two variations, whether black can try d6 or to take the pawn. Now let's look for taking the pawn, where black captures the central pawn. We also capture back. Now you can see that we have created the control on the center. Both of the bishops are developed. In the next move, you can try queen to b3 and can attack towards the f7 pawn. You can push this pawn forward and can create a weak position for your opponent king. You can castle and can bring your rook to the center, creating an open file, pushing the central pawn. And Evans Gambit is completely about attacking. So try to sacrifice your pieces, especially the minor pieces, and to gain material. But before that, you must try something queen b3 to attack this. Develop your knights, develop your bishop, and then try something like sacrificing. Now, coming back to our position, in this position, we look for taking the pawn. What if black plays d6? Then, once again, stick to our plan, queen to b3, attacking the f7 pawn. So, black have to do something about f7 pawn. Okay, in this position, if black tries knight to a5, then it is attacking the queen and the bishop. Queen to a4 giving a check is not a nice move since knight can go back, so it doesn't make any sense. In this position, what you can do is you can capture the pawn by the bishop, making a weak position for the king since king cannot castle anymore, where king goes to f8 and then king has lost the ability of castling. Now you can see that this knight is attacking our queen. Then we have to do something. There is no need to worry. Play queen to a4, attacking the knight. And if knight goes back, then bring your bishop back. There is no logical thinking in such things. And in this position, if black captures it, then capture it back. So the material is almost equal. You can see that black king position is completely lost since black king cannot castle. And what you can do is you can try attacking towards your enemy king to win your game. Evans Gambit is all about attacking. Going back, in this position we discussed about knight to a5 like this. But what if black tries knight to x6, protecting the pawn? Then what you have to do is you have to capture the knight with the bishop. And later on, if it captures, then we can capture the weak pawn. King to d7 is a big blunder. Another variation. We look for bishop to e7. Now here we look for the most common reply. Bishop to a5. Now what you can do is stick to your plan by controlling the center. If black captures it, then of course you cannot capture it since that will be a pin. Then what you have to do is safely castle, and then if black captures the another pawn thinking that it is an advantage, then there is no need to worry since you are a 3 pawn down. What you have to do is you have to play queen to b3 attacking the f7 pawn. Now here in this position, once again knight to x6 is not a good move since you can safely capture it and can attack the f7 pawn. So in this position, you will have two main replies, and that are queen to e7 or queen to f6. Let's look for queen to f6 first. Since queen to f6 is protecting the pawn, and later on black can push this pawn and can attack the rook, which is a very amazing point. So what you can do to avoid this? The very safe option here is to play e5 attacking the queen. Now if black captures from the knight, then you can play rook to e1 pinning the knight, where later on you can create the attack on the knight. So what black do is black plays d6, then queen to e a4 giving a check, where later on the bishop will be gone. So you can see that Ivan's Gambit over here, even after having 4 points disadvantage, you are going to gain the material. Back to our position. In this position, since we discussed about queen to f6, now let's look for queen to e7. What you have to do is, since you can see your pawn is in danger, then you must protect the pawn. So you can see that this pawn is becoming weak since black could have played queen to f6 and to protect the pawn, but it doesn't place queen to f6, so we captured the c3 pawn, protecting the central pawn. So what you can do in this position, that you can expect black to play knight to f6 since it is a developing move, creating the double attack on the central pawn and making space for black to castle at the same time. Now in this position, what you can do is you can play knight to d5 attacking the queen. So if black captures it, then capture from the pawn and it is attacking the knight. Now let's look for the variation that I want to show you is, if black plays knight to b4, then black is gone since what you can do is play rook to e1, the queen is gone in the next move. So of course you are not going to say that knight b4 is going to be played in any of the game. So in this position, let's look for main line, that is knight to e5. Now what you have to do is you can capture the knight, queen captures it back, then develop the bishop. Both your bishops are developed, your rooks are connected. This bishop is attacking the pawn behind the queen. So you can expect queen to g5 as the move. Now in this position, what you can do is you can try playing h4, removing the queen like this, and you can capture the pawn, which will be a advantage. And in this position, what you can do is you can try to give checks leading to gain material. How? Let us check on it. Rook over here giving a check. Bishop takes the rook. We capture it back giving the check. So of course queen is not going to be here. So king goes over here. Then what you have to do is you can play queen to b2, protecting the bishop. Anyways, you can try something else, and that is queen to c3. Or if you want to play, you can play queen to g3. Okay, let's look for queen to g3. If queen to g3 and black captures it, then bishop to f6 will be a checkmate. The main importance comes that we want to bring our bishop over here, threatening the checkmate. In this position, what black can do is, if black tries to sacrifice the rook, then what you can do is you can capture the free rook and later on there will be a checkmate in one move. So capturing is not a good move. In this position, if he tries d6, then you can win the queen like this. And in this position, if king comes to d7, then this is a checkmate. In this position, we all discussed about taking the knight and we could have captured from the pawn. But let us take an example where this knight is attacking the queen, so queen captures the central pawn. In this position, what you can do is you can play bishop to g5, putting pressure on the knight. Well, playing bishop to g5, the main importance comes that we have to play rook to e1, pinning the queen. So later on, you can win the queen. So in this position, we look for castling as the move. You can capture the free knight. Now why I call it a free knight? Since if black captures it, then knight captures the f6 pawn, creating a fork where in the next move black's queen is gone. And later on, let's look if black doesn't castle and tries something like playing x6 attacking the bishop. What you can do is you can play rook to e1, bishop captured from the rook, and then the queen is gone. So this game will become easy for you. This position we discussed for the two variations, bishop to a5 and the bishop to e7. Here comes bishop to c5. Then what you can do is create a control on the center, attacking the bishop on the same time. Black captures it and white captures back, attacking the bishop. Bishop goes back to b6. Now in this position, what you can do is you can castle, look for your king safety. Once again, you can try queen over here, attacking along a sharp diagonal. Develop your bishop to b2 and to attack the sharp diagonal. You can develop your knight to d2, creating the control on the central game. Now in this position, we look for Ivan's Gambit where bishop is going to capture the pawn. But what if black's knight captured the pawn? So let's look on it. Okay, now if knight captures the pawn, then you are going to observe along with the SWOT analysis that the knight was over here, it was protecting the pawn, but it has lost the central control. And I want to remind you that there is no need of jumping to take the pawn. This is a big mistake since queen can come over here attacking the pawn and the knight on the same time. Also, black can try queen to f6 where it is a threatening a checkmate, right? Also, if you bring the knight back, then it is attacking the rook. So, in this position, never make a mistake for grabbing the pawn. Instead, look for your development by playing c3, attacking the knight, and then you can further castle, develop your knights and the bishops. You can look for further development of your pieces, and at last, for sure, you will